We're taking this thing to space, folks. Welcome to our playthrough of Ratchet and Clank, the game based on the movie, based on the game. We are the three Amiibros. I am Will.
I'm Jordan.
And I'm Daniel.
And this game was made by Insomniac Games. I'm a huge fan. They've never done me wrong.
You ever played Resistance, Will?
Nope.
I've never played Resistance either. I also hear, I've never played it, but I hear Sunset Overdrive is good, but I don't have an Xbox One, so I can never play it.
I played the first Resistance, and I never got to the point of finishing it, but it was okay.
Okay, yeah, I've heard Resistance 2 is bad, I think. And then the first and third tend to have decent reputations. They also came out with that other game that was really bad a little while ago. I forget what it was called. I think it was like a launch game. No, that was Sunset Overdrive. There was some other game they put out that had like a bit of a troubled development cycle that did not get received particularly well.
Look, they're doing the next.
Great though.
They're doing the next Spider-Man game, and that's all I care about right now.
Sure, I hope that's good. That costume's terrible.
Yeah, that's what bothers me. That costume is absolutely horrible. Like, who signed off on that?
I trust them on the gameplay. Costume aside, I trust them to do the gameplay right.
Yeah, I hope so.
But yeah, Dan, you're right. Like, not even a minute in, and we already hit a tangent.
Yeah, I think this game is really good, though. I played through this game. I got a PS4 a couple months ago, and this was the first game I bought because it was $30, and I haven't played a Ratchet and Clank game in a long time, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
What is your guys' history with the Ratchet and Clank games? We should start off with that.
I have no real history with the Ratchet and Clank games, to be honest. Like, Ratchet and Clank was always a series that I've always wanted to get into, but I never actually did, mostly because back in like the PS2 era, I had a GameCube, and I didn't get a PS2 until like almost the next generation, and as I started like piling up like old games that I missed on the PS2, I found out that my PS2 actually overheats after like an hour, so I never actually ended up getting to it. But I have played I do have Ratchet Deadlocked, and because my PS2 kept overheating, I never could finish it, but I did like it.
So the first 3 Ratchet and Clank games I got for Hanukkah from my parents like 3 years in a row. Like it was like clockwork because they were coming out every year and they were always around the same time, and it was always what I wanted. So like those first 3 games I've played through multiple times and really, really like a lot. And then Deadlocked came out, and I don't know, I think I always really liked the Clank levels in these games. I thought they were like a really nice change of pace, and it was always fun to see like, ooh, what's the Clank level gonna be in this one? And I was a little bit, I wasn't big on like how they changed it to just Ratchet. I guess they took out a lot of the platforming stuff, and it seemed like that one was a little bit toned down on the humor side, and I think when that game came out I just like wasn't interested, and I didn't have a PS3, so I didn't play any of those, though I heard they were pretty good. So as I said, like this reboot was the first one I had played in a really, really long time, and I really, really liked it.
I've got thoughts on Deadlock, but as of last week, I have officially played, I think, every Ratchet and Clank game. I was like you, Jordan. I had a GameCube for that era of console gaming. I didn't get a PS2 until the very end, but when I did, I found over the past years, people were telling me to play Ratchet and Clank. It's like, hey, you like Spyro, you like Crash, like Ratchet and Clank's right up your alley. I'm like, okay. So I found the first game in like a value bin at Walmart for like $10. I'm like, okay, I can't go wrong with that. By the end of it, I felt like I went wrong with that. Because I did not like the original Ratchet and Clank. I felt like the gameplay was stiff. It just really didn't jive with me. So that first one can be hard to go back to because there's no strafing in it, so like a lot of the aiming stuff is weird. I still think that game is like, as a platformer, is quite good, but there's also some like weird character stuff with like Ratchet is just kind of a dick in that game in a way that it's like kind of off-putting. I found that the cutscenes were a little oddly paced too. Like sometimes they would just end very abruptly. Like after a joke was delivered.
I really liked them at the time.
Welcome to the PS2 era where that was sort of the norm.
Anyway, so I found, I sort of compare it to Kingdom Hearts 1. because I went back to that a few years ago, and wow, it was way stiffer than I remember. So that's sort of what the first Ratchet and Clank game is to me.
Sure.
Never got around to the second game. I think the next one I played was on the Vita, Size Matters. I was very impressed with that game. That was one of my first Vita games, and I just couldn't believe they were able to fit like an entire adventure experience onto that handheld device. And I had a good time with it. I felt like it was. I think it's because the areas were much smaller. They were a lot easier to like explore quicker, and you know the pace of the game just felt like it was a lot faster. So.
Speaking of, like, you said it was like sort of like a Kingdom Hearts 1. Like, does it have a catchy theme song too?
No. No.
That being said,
no Simple and Clank.
I want to cover.
That being said, one of the things that I actually do miss from those original games is like I don't really like the music in this game so much. They go for a lot of like very epic strings, whereas the original game has sort of more. It's a little bit more. It's not like robotic, and it's not really cool, and it's still strings in the first couple games, but it's like got this feeling of like mechanicalness to it that I think fits with the game a little bit better than the stuff in this game.
It's also I remember the other songs had like a nice beat to them. Like I don't remember any specific melodies, but I remember being able to like bop along with like the rhythm of a lot of those songs.
Yeah, I especially like so the first time I played Ratchet and Clank was at like a Future Shop on a kiosk where they had you playing like the training grounds level, which is also in this game, but it's changed a bunch. And I remember being really won over because I really loved how that game looked and how it sounded and how those things sort of came together at the time. And I was young, right? Like I was probably 12 or something at the time. I just really liked how those elements came together, and I feel like it doesn't quite come together as well in this game. This game looks great, but when I first started playing it, I was really off-put by the fact that it was 30 frames a second because I'm just used to Ratchet and Clank games being at 60, so it just like felt a little weird to me. It's a great-looking game, though.
I thought that they really hit their stride once they got to the Future series for the PS3. Because it looked like a Pixar movie at the time. Like I was super impressed with the graphics,
Sure.
And the gameplay. That was the smooth Ratchet and Clank gameplay I was looking from the classic trilogy.
Oh, so I think the trilogy gets it. Like starting basically from Going Commando, the trilogy like pretty much nails it. Like even like the controls in this game are basically the same controls as in Going Commando.
I felt they were a lot more stiff.
Audience.
Hey man, they're right there. They are in my way. What are you gonna do?
So what exactly is going on right now?
So this is basically the tutorial. Ratchet. So the story of this game is that Ratchet is a Lombax on planet Alien, and he's looking to become a galactic ranger and join the ranks of Captain Quark and his merry rangers. And he is currently training to join them.
Yeah, he's got a very it's sort of like Ariel from The Little Mermaid. Like it's kind of like he's a young, restless guy who like wants to go out into the world and be a hero kind of thing.
Does he
see the
sing?
space in front of him? He does not sing, but honestly, I don't think singing would be out of place in a Ratchet and Clank game. I kind of wish they did it now.
He wants to be part of this world.
Yeah, I mean, Will, maybe you can help me on this because you've played more of these games, but I sort of feel like must have been a musical sequence of some kind in one of these games.
You know what? I was
Dancetron
just racking my brain. I think the Groovatron is the most we'll get out of like a rhythm music thing.
Yeah.
I feel like this game, like in terms of the comedy, I think it's like up there, but it's not like stellar compared. I will give that for the classic games. Some of the classic games have some really good clips. Actually, I think Into the Nexus, which is a part of the Future series, had the best writing and dialogue across the entire franchise.
Yeah, this game's got really good. It's like good in a sort of well-rounded sense. Like the voice acting is great, the animation's fantastic, and like the direction is all really, really good. And it's like tells. I mean, the story is like whatever. It's someone saves the world, but like it's populated with some good characters and there's some good interactions. But I think it's definitely not as funny a game. Like I noticed that a lot. Especially, I find Clank in this game like
pretty dry.
Well, Clank has always been dry, but he's been dry in a funny way, to the point where when I was a kid, Clank was like one of my favorite characters, and I loved him very, very much.
Did you play Secret Agent Clank, Dan?
I did not. I didn't have a PSP.
Ah, I see. It might be for the
but
Vita.
yeah, like, and a lot of the time, like he was the funniest parts of those original games. And in this game, he doesn't really crack wise at all, even in his like very dry, deadpan sort of way.
No, Captain Quark is the usual comic relief in this game.
So he's like a three-fingered human.
Well, he's also Captain Quark is very much like a sort of blowhard, like he doesn't actually know how to do anything. He's just kind of a dick, but he's the figurehead.
His character, I mean, he's always been like that sort of figurehead character in all the series.
Oh yeah, he's always been a huge phony, and that's been his thing.
Yeah.
So that's what Ratchet is in this game. Like he wants to like sort of see the world, but in the original Ratchet and Clank, he's kind of like really reluctant all the time, and like Clank escapes and like wants help saving the world, and for pretty much the entire game, Ratchet is like, I don't want to do this. And it's funny because there's like Going Commando pretty much has a complete 180 where they turn him into what he would end up being for the rest of these games, which is like just sort of a good-natured dude.
Yeah, Going Commando was the second game, was it not, Dan?
That's the second.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That's the one I could never get
they really like straightened things out with that game. That was the first game that had like weapons actually leveling up and sort of having those RPG elements and that sort of stuff.
I felt like the level design was very bleak, like uninspired in that game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily remember a lot of that game, but it was a long time ago. I remember that game, portions of it being like extremely difficult also, but I wonder if that's just because I was a child. I don't really know. Fun fact though, when we started this YouTube channel, that was the first game I wanted to record for this channel, only to find that the PS2 emulation for that game, and every Ratchet and Clank game, is not very good right now.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, but yeah, Going Commando was the first game I was like, this would be a good chance to replay that game.
Did they just have like really hard DRM?
You know, it doesn't have DRM. It's just like those games are weird. I don't know, man. I'm not technical enough to really know the nitty-gritty of how emulation works. But like, let's get into 3D eras. You start to have a lot of problems with like textures and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Especially because consoles at that time were not just small PCs in the way that they are now. Like, consoles at that point were like actually had their own sort of proprietary hardware. And that stuff can be tough to crack. Like, there's some PS2 emulation that's really amazing. Like, they've done Final Fantasy 12, I know, has like a lot of work, has had a lot of work done to it, and you can pretty much upscale it completely, and like has all these updated textures, and it looks really beautiful. But those Going Commando, at least when I was playing it, has a lot of like broken textures, like a lot of things where walls just look weird and like have weird patterns on them, and there's clearly stuff going wrong with it.
So this is Clank's section of the game. Clank usually has these. They're more puzzle platforming based.
Totally.
You have a finite amount of resources, usually in the form of these little nanobot things that have different functions, like getting you, like they can turn into a bridge, and use them to cross a bridge. They can power doors and whatnot, and you have to use them in a very specific manner to be able to progress successfully.
Yeah, I actually don't really love the Clank levels in this game. To me, they felt a little bit lifeless and not super interesting. Like, it's sort of playing on the original Ratchet and Clank. The Clank levels are these things where you sort of have this army of small robots, and they all act the same way, and you're basically just going by and collecting them and then dumping them into a portal to like open up a door. And you need to have a certain number, but it's cool because by the end of every section of that game, you have like 15 of those things, and you're commanding this like small army of robots, and I always thought that was really cool. And these are sort of like the levels in this game are sort of like a very small version of that I think is a little bit less interesting.
I think the most interesting, even conceptually interesting Clank levels was the one from Crack in Time. If you ever played that one, it's the PS3 version.
I haven't. Like, yeah, that's PS3 one, so I don't really know where they went. The only Clank levels I know of are the robots and the giant Clank stuff, pretty much.
Right.
So how does this compare to like the original Ratchet and Clank right now?
It's a completely different game using a bunch of the same locations, basically, and like sort of the same basic plot.
So it's a reboot.
It's a straight up reboot, but also they'll reference some things in the earlier games. Like, there's a guy, this plumber guy, who you see in the first real level of this game, who like when he says bye to you, he's like, see you later. He's like, see you in the next reboot.
I knew you were going to bring that one up. It gets kind of
self-aware in some pretty funny ways.
Though it is kind of weird because like they rebooted this franchise, but if you ever want to like play any of the old game, you kind of can't.
I think they're on PS Now, I want to say.
Yeah, I have the collection on the Vita. Don't play PSA to anyone who's thinking about getting the collection on the Vita. Do not get it on the Vita. The way you strafe in those games, you have to use like 3 fingers to hold onto the back touchpad of the console.
Yeah, dude, Borderlands 2 had something like that too, where you had to use the back touchpad to melee, and it just never worked.
Look, the only 2 games that the back touchpad works for is it's that like Little Big Planet-esque game.
I think you're talking about Tearaway.
Tearaway was a lot of fun.
And also Frobisher Says. If you've never played Frobisher Says, you should definitely play Frobisher Says.
I think Gravity Rush too, but I don't actually own a Vita, so I could be totally wrong.
Maybe Gravity Rush. I just played the demo of it. I don't remember it using the back touchpad. But the last game is Danganronpa.
I only played a demo of it, so.
You guys should play Frobisher Says. That game's so good.